A soldier was resting when he suddenly saw something in the distance reflecting light. Alert, he stepped forward to examine it, then bent down, picked it up, and brushed off the dirt clinging to it. Unexpectedly, it was a photograph of a beautiful woman. Thinking that perhaps a comrade had accidentally dropped it, he casually slipped the photo into his pocket. Just as he was about to return to his resting place, the very next second, a shell fell precisely on the spot where he had been lying. The force of the explosion threw him into the air, rendering him unconscious instantly. When he woke up, the doctor told him that 3 comrades who had been patrolling with him had been killed, and he was the only survivor. The medic had found it in his ammo pouch, and it seemed that she had saved him.
Looks like it saved you. Got yourself a guardian angel.
Logan thought that this photo did not belong to him. On the battlefield, the blessings of loved ones were extremely precious. Therefore, he went to crowded places everywhere to look for the owner of the photo, but after asking for several months, no one claimed it. 8 months later, the war still continued. Death was always lingering nearby. That photo was still carefully kept by Logan. Several times he narrowly escaped death. His comrades teased that the girl in the photo was his goddess of luck. If he survived and returned from the battlefield, he must go and thank her. Logan smiled and gently kissed the photo. No sooner had he finished than another shell fell. In the huge impact, Logan once again miraculously survived, while the comrades who had just been laughing with him all perished. The photo seemed to truly have some mysterious power silently protecting Logan. Eventually, Logan was safely discharged from the army and returned home. However, the scars left by the war did not heal. He temporarily stayed at his sister's house but could not adapt to a peaceful life. He suffered from severe post-traumatic stress disorder. Even a dull noise would immediately put him in a state of alertness. When his nephew called to wake him up, he instinctively grabbed the boy's throat. Logan felt very troubled by this.
You know, the Corps can get you some help.
His sister advised him to see a psychologist. Logan knew well that he should leave, but he did not know where he belonged. He wanted to find the answer, only that before that he had to find the girl in the photo. Based on the lighthouse in the picture, Logan determined that the location was in Louisiana, 1,500 kilometers away. He did not know who the girl was, whether she was waiting for someone or not, but Logan knew the photo had saved him, so he had to find the girl to return this destiny. Thus Logan, together with his closest comrade, a retired military dog named Zeus, began a long walking journey. He did not drive nor ask for a ride. He only relied on his 2 legs, walking from morning until night, from forests to small towns. Hungry, he lit a fire. Tired, he lay next to Zeus to rest. The farther he went, the wounds in Logan's heart also seemed to be gradually healing. On a sunny morning, at last he arrived in front of the lighthouse. Logan began asking everywhere about the girl in the photo. In a tavern, someone gave him specific information. A local said that everyone here knew her.
Beth Green runs a pet motel just outside of town there.
Do you know her?
Girl can't look like that in a town like this and not be known. She'd be married to a buddy of mine. What's it to you anyway?
Oh, just do it, thanks, is all.
As soon as he heard the information, Logan immediately took Zeus to find her. When Beth appeared in the dazzling sunlight, his heart suddenly pounded in a strange way. Although the girl in the photo was very beautiful, she could not compare with the beauty in real life. Logan was about to talk about the photo, but a phone call to Beth interrupted. The pet hotel was quite busy. Beth always wanted to hire more staff. Logan waited for her to hang up, and he was preparing to take out the photo to explain his purpose, but Beth saw the recruitment flyer that he had accidentally pulled out first. Beth handed him an application form. At first, Logan hesitated a bit because this was not the reason he came here, but seeing the goddess of luck standing opposite him, he still agreed. Logan introduced himself as a Marine who had traveled 1,500 kilometers to get here. Beth felt she could not believe it. She thought this man must be crazy. Beth turned to find her grandmother, told her about this madman, and asked her to find an excuse to drive him away. But seeing Logan's appearance, the grandmother felt that the young man was very trustworthy. When she heard Logan say he had worked in the Marines, a place full of violence, and now he only wanted a peaceful life, the grandmother understood the reason for Logan's strangeness. But when she saw his rich experience in training dogs, she still hired him. Logan rented an abandoned house nearby. He thought he would settle first and then wait for the right time to tell Beth the truth, because he was not sure whether the photo really had magical power or not. He even suspected that everything was just an illusion of his own. But there was one thing Logan knew: he had survived. And the photo was the reason he was still alive. Only whether this was the favor of fate or just a joke, time would prove. Fortunately, this job was not difficult for Logan. In fact, his presence quietly changed the place. Communicating with dogs was Logan's specialty. He not only cleaned the kennels and fixed the broken troughs, but also renovated his own abandoned house. Even the old broken tractor was repaired by Logan. However, Beth still always kept her distance from him. Logan drove the tractor to clear away the pile of weeds that had accumulated for a long time. Suddenly, a police car drove into the yard. A man in uniform stepped out with an arrogant demeanor. He was Beth's ex-husband, named Keith. He was a policeman in the town and the son of the judge. Keith immediately showed hostility when he saw Logan. Logan placed both hands on the table. Keith searched and found his ID card. He began asking about Logan's past occupation. The air was filled with the smell of gunpowder. From this behavior, it could be seen that Keith was a controlling man. Although he had divorced Beth, he always used custody of their son to threaten her, not allowing her to be truly free. Whenever he had to attend an event, he forced Beth to bring their son along. Beth always wanted to escape, but because she did not want to lose her son, she had to compromise. Recently, Beth noticed that Logan often looked at her in a strange way. That look made her feel very uncomfortable. But what she did not know was that whenever Logan looked at her, his mind replayed the scenes of his narrow escapes on the battlefield. It was a peace that could not be described in words. And that peace was something he felt for the first time since returning from the war. That day, Beth was complaining to her grandmother about Logan.
That man is so irritating. Every time I turn around, he's just...
These words reached Logan's ears, and the atmosphere immediately became awkward. The grandmother quickly changed the subject. She asked about Logan's past life, whether he had ever gone to college. Logan replied that he had studied for 1 year and then enlisted.
What'd you study?
Well, he didn't study much. It was just for a year.
Logan did not mind and said that he liked philosophy. When Logan left, Beth felt ashamed of her arrogance just now. The grandmother looked at her granddaughter with a mischievous expression. At kindergarten to pick up her son after school, that was Ben, her and Keith's son. Ben was a shy boy who liked to play the violin, but he always hid from others when practicing. Even his mother rarely heard her son's music. That day, when Logan was walking the dog, he heard a melodious tune. He saw Ben, but did not approach. He stood at a distance and listened. When Ben stopped, he praised him. Logan's praise gave Ben unlimited confidence. At the same time, Beth saw that shining man, and in her heart, a little goodwill arose. The grandmother understood her granddaughter's feelings, so the next day, she asked for a ride from Logan. She asked Logan about his feelings toward Beth. Although Beth seemed fierce, she was not really like that. She said Beth was always a kind person.
She doesn't seem so bad to me.
Hearing this, the grandmother already had her answer in her heart. Logan went to see Beth to return the key, and unexpectedly discovered that all the furniture in her house was covered with strange white cloth. In the middle of the living room stood a piano. Logan could not resist and began to play. Ben discovered him, and also realized that the piece he was playing was the very song he often listened to. From that, a close affection was born. In the evening, Ben warmly invited Logan to stay for dinner. The world of children was truly simple. Ben did not hide his affection for Logan. After dinner, they played chess, betting that whoever lost would have to wash the dishes. Unsurprisingly, Logan lost. Ben did not like performing for others, always feeling that his playing was not good enough. The boy performed a magic trick for Logan that he rarely showed, a trick his uncle had taught him. The two were close, like father and son. Beth could not believe that her usually shy son was so cheerful that day. This great change inevitably gave her more goodwill toward Logan. As he was about to leave, Logan stammered, wanting to tell her about the photo, but the words reached his lips only to be swallowed again. He did not know how to begin, how to explain a bond of fate exchanged for a life. The next day was the memorial day of Beth's younger brother. Beth, who was always calm and gentle, suddenly lost control of her emotions after offering incense for her brother. The garden, which had always been neatly and carefully maintained, became the place where she vented her anger. She grabbed scissors and frantically cut down the flowers she had planted with her own hands, even wanting to tear down the fence. Logan rushed over to hold her tightly and continuously soothed her with gentle words. When she had calmed down, Beth told Logan the secret in her heart. She said that a year ago the army had only reported that her brother's death was an accident caused by friendly fire, and until now there had been no final conclusion. The greatest pain for her was that the death of her brother still had no clear reason. She was willing to give up everything, just to know that her brother's death had meaning. In her heart, her brother was a hero, the loved one who had grown up with her, who had hidden the fairy tale book in the wall crack when they were children. When Beth spoke of these things, her broken gaze carried a trace of gentleness, as if those memories were only yesterday. Finally, Beth smiled, but then the smile faded, and her emotions broke down again. At that moment, Logan spoke one sentence.
You got a great laugh, you know that? I wish I could hear it more.
From that day, the wall in Beth's heart quietly collapsed a corner. Logan truly integrated into this family. The kennels were neatly cared for by him. His relationship with Ben grew closer. The yard began to have the sound of laughter and voices. Looking at her son's radiant smile, Beth suddenly felt as if a father who had been absent for a long time had returned home. But that illusion was quickly shattered by reality. Keith came again. As usual, he took Ben away. At first, Beth did not pay attention because the town's activities were about to begin, and she was very busy. But when Ben was returned, his face was swollen, his clothes stained with blood. When Beth only wanted to know the reason, Keith showed impatience. She asked about it, but he only said it was an accident, and then irritably mocked. He reaffirmed his right as a father, threatened that he could take back custody at any time, and did not allow Beth to question him. At that moment, Logan appeared and intervened, demanding Keith follow Beth's words. The tense conversation ended, but the conflict between the two men had begun. Logan's timely intervention had helped Beth escape the control of her ex-husband, but it also caused Keith to harbor resentment. He looked at Logan with a hateful gaze. Logan did not show weakness either. The enmity between the two was officially formed. Beth thanked Logan for his help. When Logan heard that Keith wanted custody of Ben, he asked her in confusion why she did not take her son and leave. Beth feared the power of her ex-husband. She knew that as soon as she left, he would find out, and surely she would lose custody. In response to Logan's question about why she married Keith, Beth explained that when she was in high school, Keith was the captain of the football team, and she had mistakenly thought she loved him. Later, when she became pregnant, he proposed and she accepted. She shared that she had not expected Keith to refuse to give up his habit of dating, and she also did not want to leave because this was the home of her family for many generations.
Whatever else Keith may be, he'll always be Ben's dad.
Logan listened, and only gently replied that he just wanted to make sure she was okay. The warmth she had not felt in a long time made Beth stunned. It had been so long since anyone had cared for her like that. Looking at Logan's back as he left, the longing in her heart could no longer be restrained. In the end, she ran after him, stood at the door, and called out loudly to invite him for a beer in the evening. That night, Beth dressed up beautifully, emphasizing to her grandmother that it was not a date, only a drink. Grandmother understood everything clearly but did not expose it. In the cozy atmosphere of the bar, the two talked about stories from their past. Suddenly, Beth stood up and said she wanted to take him somewhere. They went to a small boat. It was Beth's father's boat. In the past, when she wanted to be alone, she often came here. She often came here to seek peace. Beth told about how her parents had died early, and her younger brother was the closest person to her. As a child, what she loved most was going out to sea to fish with her father. After that, they sat and talked for a long time. Seeing it was late, Logan took Beth home. Beth seemed reluctant to part. In the dim night, Logan gently kissed Beth on the lips. Just as emotions were rising, a police car suddenly appeared and interrupted them. It was Keith, who had sent someone to follow Beth and demanded that she return home. This statement was a warning to Beth and also a reminder that her life could not escape her ex-husband's harassment. However, Beth was completely immersed. Logan's diligent appearance at work fascinated her. Beth was entirely absorbed in her own world. Indeed, the eyes of someone in love could not be hidden. The grandmother had already noticed the difference in her. That night, Logan quietly went to the small boat intending to repair it. Afterwards, Logan dropped by to see Beth. The relationship between the two became increasingly close. They were happy together like a small family. But in Beth's heart, this in the end was only a dream. She knew this relationship would not have an outcome, because a perfect man like that did not exist in the world. Perhaps before long it would end, and everything would become terrible. The grandmother wanted to see her granddaughter happy, at least to have someone by her side after she herself passed away. But Beth's happiness was quickly destroyed by her ex-husband. A few days later was Ben's 8th birthday. Beth held a party at home, colorful ribbons hung in the yard. Ben invited his friends and Logan to attend. Everyone was cheerful together, except Keith, who looked coldly at Logan. With a strange man appearing at his son's party, he could not suppress his anger. He went into the kitchen and warned Beth. He declared that he did not like her being with Logan, and claimed that he had the right to interfere, because Logan was a dangerous man of unknown background. He threatened that he would sue in court for custody, because any judge would agree that living with someone like Logan would destabilize their son's life. Beth understood her ex-husband's power in the town, and knew he would truly do it. At that moment she was really afraid. Although it was difficult to choose, for her son she could give up this budding romance. Clearly just one more step forward, and she could have the love she longed for, but the child held his mother back.
He wants you out of my life. I can't risk losing Ben.
I'm sorry, Beth. I didn't come here to make things harder.
On the way home, Keith drove, tailing Logan, even honking his horn triumphantly to declare his victory. He mocked that Logan was now left with nothing, and pretended to be kind by saying he would help him find another job. But Logan did not care about his words. That cold attitude made Keith furious. Keith provoked and threatened him, saying that he did not know who he was up against. Logan calmly replied,
No, I know exactly who I'm dealing with. I've known guys like you my whole life. Think a gun and a badge and a name make you something because you carry
You
them.
better watch your mouth.
I'm done talking to you.
Logan's defiant attitude made Keith angry, but he still remained indifferent and did not want to talk further. Logan did not look back. He was not afraid of Keith. He only did not want Beth to be hurt. That evening, the grandmother probed and asked,
So, are you planning to let him bully you all your life?
You know, sacrificing everything in life for our children is, it's not selfless. It's ridiculous.
The grandmother's words seemed to strike Beth. She looked at her son sleeping soundly and could not help but begin to doubt whether her choice was truly right. The next morning, Beth took her son to her ex-husband's house and spoke carelessly. After thinking carefully, Beth said that she knew he did not really want custody. She challenged him to try suing. She would fight to the end against him and his family's lawyer.
I am a damn good mother. You know that. Everybody knows that.
She demanded that Keith stop interfering in her life unless he truly wanted to go to court. Beth had fiercely torn off her ex-husband's false mask because she understood that what Keith wanted was not custody, but control of her life. The woman who had always yielded had now broken free from Keith's control. She was determined to seize her own happiness. And finally, on that day, Beth gave her whole heart to Logan. With Logan's presence, Beth's life gradually became brighter. They cleaned the house together and lived a happy and sweet life. That day, the grandmother complained that the accompanist for her choir had suddenly had an accident and could not participate. Logan immediately thought of Ben and invited the boy to help, but Ben refused because he was afraid of performing in front of others. Then, Ben ran into the forest as if to hide. Not long after, Logan found Ben and was allowed to enter his secret base. When Ben expressed his worry that he would play wrong, Logan reassured him that when performing in church, the audience would be very tolerant. The boy still felt he could not do it alone, and Logan explained the Marine way. The two would cover each other, not worrying about themselves but only focusing on protecting their companion. In this way, Ben agreed with Logan to go to the church to perform. From that day, they practiced together at home. Beth saw the change in her son, felt extremely moved inside, and was more certain that Logan would be a good father. The affection between the two grew closer, but no one expected that her ex-husband was still outside listening. He was unwilling and determined to separate them. Finally, the day came when Logan and Ben performed together at the church for everyone in town. Keith was astonished at his son's change. The audience also marveled at Ben's talent. After the piece ended, they received warm applause. Beth even shed tears of emotion. After the performance, Beth and Logan held hands and left together. Keith saw that scene and felt very uncomfortable. At that moment, a friend found him.
Remember a while back I told you about that guy showing Beth's picture around Deckers?
Yeah, so?
Yeah, so that's the guy.
When Logan returned home, he discovered that the lock had been pried open. The house had not changed much, but the photo he had hidden under a book had disappeared. At the same time, Keith held the photo and went to Beth at night, and Beth immediately recognized that it was the photo she had given to her younger brother. The ex-husband admitted that he had found it from Logan, but a man walking 1,500 kilometers just to find a job was very hard not to doubt his motives. Moreover, there was a rumor that her younger brother had been killed by friendly fire. Could it be that the comrade responsible was Logan? Beth let her ex-husband's words into her ears. When Logan came, Beth was holding the photo and questioning him. She asked where he had taken it from. Logan explained that he had picked it up, but Beth did not believe him. She insisted that he had not come here by chance but to find her. Logan admitted that and said he knew he should have told the truth earlier. Logan knew that if he did not explain now, it would be too late. He took a deep breath and slowly spoke out the truth that had been buried for so long. One morning after a fierce battle, he had picked up this photo. Logan thought that finding a photo of a loved one on the battlefield was like meeting an angel in the middle of hell, so he had always kept it with him. After that, he had been certain he would die, but he survived many times by luck. At that moment, he promised himself that if he could survive and return, he must find the girl in the photo to say thank you directly. Logan told Beth that he had not been able to find the right words to explain something he himself did not understand. That was why he had not spoken the truth. However, Beth did not accept that explanation.
This was Drake's. It was meant to keep him alive.
I wish it had.
In the end, she demanded that he leave. Logan could only leave. All of this Ben had heard clearly. Before Logan had gone far, Ben ran out of the house and gave him the book he loved most. Logan gave the dog tag he always wore around his neck to Ben. He hoped this dog tag could protect the thoughtful boy in his place. Before leaving, Logan had completely repaired the small boat. The next morning, Beth came to the boat to relax but was astonished to discover that the broken boat had been fixed. And right then, Keith, drunk, once again made trouble with Logan on the street. A policeman against a veteran. Who would have the better chance of victory? The result was too obvious. With just a few moves, Logan seized the opponent's gun, quickly disassembled it, and returned it to Keith's colleague. Then, in front of everyone, he calmly turned his back and walked away. Returning home, Keith blamed himself.
Killed him.
The father advised his son to be stronger. Keith seemed to realize he had been wrong and returned his police badge to his father. A sudden rainstorm struck. The grandmother and Beth were arguing because the grandmother believed that since Logan came, the whole family had been happier. She thought that Logan finding the photo was perhaps destiny. At the same time, the great storm slowed Logan's journey. Feeling dejected, he opened the book Ben had given him and suddenly discovered a photo tucked between its pages. It was a picture taken with Beth's younger brother. Logan immediately recognized that the person in the photo was the one who had rushed out to shield his comrades on that night of battle. He had not been killed by mistake or accident. He was a hero. He had sacrificed himself to save others. Logan thought that he must tell Beth this truth. Just as he was leaving the house, Beth's ex-husband Keith arrived to see her first. He pleaded to reconcile and promised he would change and bring her happiness. But Beth knew in her heart that this relationship was like a bottomless pit. Once fallen into, there was no way back, so she firmly refused. Beth's refusal exposed Keith's true nature. Ben heard his father's shouting, became frightened, ran quickly out the door, and rushed into the small forest. Beth saw this and hurriedly chased after him, and Keith followed closely behind. In the storm, the forest became extremely dangerous. Both were worried about their son's safety. At that moment, Logan arrived. Logan asked nothing further and immediately ran after Ben. Ben staggered to a small wooden bridge. The floodwaters had swept through, causing the planks to shake. The wooden bridge rope suddenly broke. Ben and the entire bridge fell into the rushing flood below. The boy clung to a rope and cried for help without stopping. Keith hurriedly jumped into the river, swam toward his son, and lifted Ben above the water. When he tried to swim his son back to shore, he discovered that his leg was trapped. Luckily, Logan arrived in time, took Ben, and brought the boy safely to shore. But when he was about to turn back to save Keith, a fateful moment occurred. The structure of the wooden house above collapsed, and a large beam fell, burying the water and Keith. He died in the river he had tried so desperately to control. He did not have time to apologize or say farewell. Perhaps fate had been too cruel to him. After that, Logan met Beth, took out the photo from the book, and gave her the picture of her brother. Logan told the truth about Drake's death. He explained that he had been present in that ambush. He told her that Drake, a sergeant called OA, had disregarded his own safety to care for a wounded soldier. Logan said that the next morning, he had found Beth's photo near the concrete barrier and believed Drake had dropped it while rushing in to save his comrade. Beth lowered her head, looking at the familiar face with a trace of disbelief. After speaking, Logan left with Zeus, beginning his long walk again. But when he had just reached the end of the road, a familiar voice called out from behind. Logan turned back and saw Beth. She stood in the sunlight, as beautiful as when they had first met. In that moment they spoke few words, only stood in the morning light and held each other tightly.
You belong here. With us.
Beth finally understood that the man who had come from thousands of miles away was not a joke of fate, but a gift of destiny. He had never come here to atone, but only used his own way to make up for the dreams that had been lost. At the end of the film, the frame froze on the small boat that had been repaired. They began a new journey again. Ben, now 9 years old, steered the boat, witnessing his mother's happiness. Together they crossed the waves. The surface of the lake reflected the light like the echo of destiny. Some people say this story is really cliché, but isn't life just like that? A small choice, a meaningless journey, can take us to places we never thought we would reach. Just as Logan said at the end of the film, each person has their own destiny. Not everyone has the chance to grasp it. I was lucky enough to do so. The Lucky One is a film about fate and redemption. It does not have a complex narrative structure, but it uses the story of a man stepping into a photograph to speak clearly about protection, about courage, and about beginning a new life. Logan returned from war, but thanks to a photo, he regained hope. Beth lost her loved one and lost her choices, but thanks to this stranger, she learned how to say no. Ben, once a victim of the conflict between his parents, became braver and more confident thanks to someone who truly listened to his music. Even Keith, the ex-husband who seemed to be the villain, also used his life to complete redemption at the very last moment. This film has no superheroes, no spectacular special effects, but it makes us believe that the real Lucky Charm is not a photograph, but the person willing to walk with us through a part of the road when we need them most. Even the smallest act of kindness can light up the darkest night in our life at some moment in the future. The story ends here today. Thank you for watching the film. What do you think of this movie?